What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the new news on Final Fantasy VII's Remake Part 2. So this is a game that I've talked about a little bit on the channel, always love talking about, and so whenever we get news like this, I do get very, very excited, and this is honestly a very exciting news story. It basically is confirming, even from the development team of this game, that it is in full development, and they also have some quotes, even some things that they've left out of the first game, some changes in the second game, so a whole bunch of new info. So we're going to go over as much of it as we can, and I'll talk about my impressions of it afterwards. So this is coming from Push Square. There's also additional stuff that I don't know if they got into that I'll talk about later. Key members of Final Fantasy VII's Remake's development team have spoken more about its sequel, which is apparently now in full development. Again, they've officially confirmed that, so they're fully in development of this game. I fully understand the importance of releasing a continuation soon. We want to deliver as quick as possible. We've grasped where the level of quality should be this time too. Director Tetsuya Nomura, our good old friend, tells Famitsu. So again, I mean, that is very, very good news. We'll keep going. For the next game, we plan to release something with even greater quality and even more enjoyable than the first game as quickly as possible. So there's that line again. He said that actually a few times before. Nomura continues, when we announce the next game, we hope to also make our future plans clear. But just how far off is the remake, or whatever it ends up being called? Going by the team's comments, it's clearly hard to say. Development on the next game has already begun, and we're hard at work. You'll be waiting a little while, but please look forward to it, states co-director. And I'm not even going to try his name, because I'm just going to destroy it. Your guess is as good as ours. There's a few more interesting comments dotted through the interview. For starters, Nomura had no idea Jesse would be so popular. And then I want to focus on this part too. He says that the fan feedback has been heard with regards to classic mode being used on a harder difficulty. Hopefully the sequel will offer more options. I actually do think this article sums it up very, very well. So again, what are the key highlights here? Well, they're in full development. So we knew that they had started development. In fact, I believe even dating back to like last November, there were comments, maybe it was October, one of those, they said like, okay, we're starting production on the next game. Again, it wasn't in full development, but they had started doing it. We knew that I think it was like a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, the Japanese actors for like Cloud and Tifa started doing motion capture. Obviously, it has to be done a little bit different because of the situation obviously going around the world, but they had started doing that, and then now we know that the game is fully, it's fully going. Again, the comments of that this game is going to be coming sooner rather than later, that they wanted to get this out as quickly as humanly possible. This is nothing new. They've been saying this really for months, ever since, even I would say even before Final Fantasy VII's Remake came out, that they want these games to come out quickly, and it makes sense, right? Because even someone like me, if you guys have watched those videos, I've talked about this remake quite a bit on the channel. I never have played the Final Fantasy VII. Now I'm thinking about doing it just so I can really spot the main differences like going forward. But I actually really enjoy kind of experiencing it for the first time with honestly loads of other people. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people that played the original Final Fantasy VII, but if you think about it, this is the first time for lots of people, and I'm honestly, it's kind of a cool situation where I get to do that with a lot of people, not knowing a lot of the story beats that are going to happen, and especially, again, the changes they make. Now, I believe there were actual comments to that as well. There has been comments in the past that they're going to keep the story very much similar to the original. Now, with that being said, they did make major changes at the end of the first game, the Final Fantasy VII's Remake. They made a lot of changes at the end there, so I don't know if they're necessarily going to be able to do all of that. A couple of key things I do want to go into is one of the interesting comments Nomura says, when we announce the next game, we hope to also make our future plans clear. So what I honestly feel like he's saying there is basically, when we announce Remake Part 2, we're going to tell you that there's going to be 3. That's honestly how I read it, is that a lot of people, because of how they've kind of sectioned off these games, right? Obviously, there's only been one game, but the way they did it, people are kind of unsure. Okay, well, it kind of only, I've seen this numerous times, right? It's like 10, maybe 15% of the original Final Fantasy VII. So, like, the rest of it, you know what I mean? Like, are they going to have to make, like, 8, 9 parts to it? I've always said, no, I really think this could be a trilogy. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. There's just something nice to, like, the rule of 3, like, for literally, like, a trilogy's sake. So, I think that's what it's going to be. But, again, there's confusion there. Not everybody's really sure. I've seen a lot of people say maybe there's going to be 4 parts. And with that also being said, even no matter how many parts there are, even if there's like 3 parts, let's say, they have to jam pack a lot of stuff into these last 2 parts. Okay, so again, when he says that, I read that as when they announce part 2, they're gonna say, okay, just so we're all clear here, there's gonna be 3 parts in all. This is part 2. Hopefully, we're gonna get this out soon, and then part 3, that's gonna be the conclusion to Final Fantasy VII. And a thing also to kind of recap what people have said before is I've seen comments even in videos of mine of interviews with them, whether it be Nomura or other people on the team, that have said that when they do this new announcement for Remake Part 2, it's not going to be the same as Remake Part 1. When they first announced this, I believe it was like 2014, right? That's a long period of time. That was way too, and now games have done that before, but that is way too long to do something like that, right? And honestly, it seems like they know that, where they're not going to do it again. Kind of goes into the discussion we had a few weeks ago when I said, could this game be shown in July or August? We know Square Enix is going to show some games around this time. Could this be one of them? It's possible. At the same time, I think it's still probably 2 years away. I don't think we're going to get this game before 2022. I honestly feel like that is when we're going to get it, though. I don't think it's going to take 3, 4, 5 years. I think we're going to get this game much quicker. Honestly, by all of the statements that Nomura has made, that the team has made, it really seems like, and in fact, I think they even have said this before, they're using a lot of what they had already done, okay? Like, they literally, a lot of the stuff is already built. This game obviously looks beautiful. The fighting they already have completely figured out, and even the way he talks about it is we want to deliver it as quickly as possible. We've grasped where the level of quality should be, and things like that. Whenever he says stuff like that, really does seem like, okay, we really have an amazing foundation to build off of. We're using that, and because of that, it really shouldn't take all that long. Also, honestly, another thing you have to think of is the PS5, and I'm only saying PS5. Obviously, it's a 1-year exclusive for PlayStation 4, so I don't know if they'll do the same thing for Part 2. I feel like they kind of would, right? It would kind of make sense that way. But either way, next gen in general is a lot easier to make games for. We've heard that time and time again, that you're going to be able to make games for the PS5, for the Xbox Series X, a whole lot faster than you're able to make the games for the PS4 and Xbox One. So with that being said, it does make sense. 2 years, maybe it would normally take 4, maybe it would take 3. You can cut that down, half the amount of time, a third of the amount of time, or like 2/3. You know what I mean? Like, you could do that. You could honestly do that. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. The last thing which did catch my eye was the whole fan feedback thing. So again, fan feedback had been heard with regards to classic mode being used on a harder difficulty. So classic mode, I believe for this remake, for Part 1, is only on easy. You can only do classic on easy. So they've heard that people want to do it on harder difficulties. Now, I'll be honest, it's not something that I did. I didn't play it with that mode in mind when I played Final Fantasy VII. With that being said, there is something to that, and considering this is a remake, right? And this, and you're trying to capture kind of the energy and the passion, right, of that first game. To have classic mode only limited basically to 1 difficulty level, not necessarily the greatest. Now, again, to me, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I could care less if they do it for different things. At the same time, it would be interesting. Like, I would be interested in it. I think it's good for the general fans. I don't know if I would end up playing it, but just the fact that if they could put it on different difficulties, maybe I would. You know what I mean? If they put on normal, if they put on hard, maybe I'd be willing to jump into it just to try something different. Again, I mean, it really harkens back to what the original game was, which is what you try to do with the remake. With that being said, you also try to make changes, trying to improve it for the better, right? Get new people into it. So honestly, all good signs. I do think we're going to get this game very, very soon. Obviously, all in moderation, very, very soon. In my book, if you look up my book of words, I think honestly that does mean like 2 years. I do think this game is, obviously we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. The game just came out this past April, so we do have some waiting to do, but honestly, all these signs are very, very good. I do think we're going to get this game probably within 2 to 3 years, which means the announcement of it, I really don't think is all that far off. Is it this summer? Well, that would still mean, if the game does come out in 2 years from now, that would mean that they're only giving themselves 2 years from the announcement. That doesn't sound like something they want to do. I feel like, again, this time around, they're going to announce it, and then it's going to release soon after, maybe like a year. So honestly, if we're doing predictions, I think next year could be the time we get the trailer or the announcement for this game. Again, they have a lot of the foundation already built. It shouldn't be too difficult to make the second game, right? And they also don't want to announce it too soon. Announce it next year, release it the year after. Sounds good to me. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do these things sound good to you? Do you think this game is coming out in a few years, in 3 years, in 4 years? When do you think we're going to get the announcement for this game? All those questions, let me know in the comments. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And I love talking about this game. I'm going to be talking about it a lot more, obviously, as time goes on. Obviously, if there's any news stories like this, any breaking things on this game, I'll be sure to cover it as well, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.